Hey everybody, this is Chris from Prepared Mind 101 filling in today for JJ. I'm here to talk to you about choosing a large knife slash chopper. Now there are a lot of reasons to have such a thing. Personally, I'm very big on large knives. My normal knife, which I consider a regular size, is the Becker BK7. Now you can chop with this. It's not going to be ideal, but if it's all I had, I could get it done. But this is not what I would consider a chopper. Biggest thing that's going to make a difference in what you choose is going to be your terrain. What are you going to be chopping? Where are you trying to go? What are you trying to do with it? Are you going to be trying to clear a light brush, blazing a trail? Well, in that case, you might just be better off with a plain old simple Tramontina machete. These don't cost any money at all. Maybe 10 to 15 bucks depending on where you get it. This can chop light brush probably better than anything. I mean, that's what it was, designed for. I always go South American, Central American when I choose my machetes because they live with the machete. It's like a fork and a spoon to them. Tramontina is among the best and one of the least expensive. You can chop wood with this. You can chop down small trees with this. Can you baton with it? No, not really. I'm sure you could probably process some small pieces for kindling, but this isn't really intended for large chopping, splitting tasks. Chopping down small trees, maybe splitting up little sticks, that's fine. But mainly what this is for is clearing brush. That's the crap that's in the trail. It wants to scratch across your face. That's what this is good for. But it doesn't do everything. So what else is there? Maybe you want to be able to do that and have a little bit more bite for chopping down larger things. Well, in that case, another type of machete, a cold steel machete, might be ideal. Cold Steel makes tons of different machetes. They've got ones that are fairly flimsy, like their Latin machetes, and then they've got their ones that are designed after all sorts of different swords and stuff like this. This one in particular is their barong machete. It is like an oversized barong, but I really love the handle on this one because it just gives you a great purchase. Having that angle on that forward chop is awesome. I'm actually designing a knife, and this part right here is what I kind of got the idea for mine. We won't get into that, but point being, this is a great handle. It can do a lot of stuff. I don't like the polypropylene injected molded handles, so I generally try to wrap those handles with something like rescue tape, magic wrap, Wilson wrap, something that just gives you a little bit better grip because you're swinging a pretty large piece of sharpened metal. So again, it has some of the same limitations, but a cold steel machete with a little bit of a thicker metal stock will give you a little bit more wiggle room when it comes to chopping large pieces of wood. But maybe that's not your thing. Maybe you don't like carrying big, unwieldy things. Maybe you would rather go with a large knife. Choosing the right large knife that is still capable of chopping takes a lot of research, takes a lot of hands-on time to see what feels good and what works good. In my experience of playing with a lot of large knives and being a large knife enthusiast, the best large knife that I have found that is capable of chopping would have to be the Becker BK9. I have not found an equal to it. This is a go-to knife when it comes to small chopping. It is the end-all when it comes to batoning wood, especially larger than normal pieces. This thing can baton all day long, no problem. Chopping wood, generally when I test a knife for its chopping ability, I test it alongside the Becker BK9. This is like my benchmark because the handle is all but perfect and you can just chop all day long with this thing. It's not going to wear your arm out. Now, other knives, large knives that I have seen that look like they would be great choppers but just didn't end up being great choppers generally end up being these large knives that are full flat grind. Let me give you an example of that right here. This is one that I thought was going to be my next Becker BK9. This is an Ontario SP50. Now, I saw a review on Nut and Fancy's channel that convinced me to get this, and it seemed like it was just the end all. But when I got it and I started chopping with it, what I found was the handle transmitted too much shock from the blade into the handle into my hand, so it really created a lot of hand fatigue, and it wanted to jump out of my hand every time I struck. Plus, something about the full flat grind doesn't want to bust the chunks out as well when you're chopping the wood. It wants to make just really sharp defined lines as you're chopping, so you really have to be precise. Get this angle, hitting the exact right spot to be effective when you're chopping with one of these big full flat grind choppers. Here's another one. This is a recent acquisition for me. I just started messing with it today. This is the Condor Boom Slang. This is about, I think, a 10-inch knife. Definitely intended for chopping. No doubt about that. But again, same thing with the full flat grind. This has no, it's just got nothing that wants to push the wood away and pop it out. When I was chopping with this, it felt better than the Ontario SP50. The handle is great on it. I thought it was really too slick, so I did wrap the back end of this. But again, it was not as effective as the Becker BK9. So my conclusion is, being 2 or 3 I've tested that were supposed to look like great choppers, and they just weren't. The common factor that I found in all of them were that they were these big full flat grind knives. Got to have a little bit of shape in there just to be a better chopper. So this is probably the smallest thing that I would consider a chopper that fits into like the large knife category. This could be your only large knife. This could do a lot of things for you. So there is that. Now, a couple other ones that I've found recently that are excellent choppers. One is a little heavier than the other. This is a 2014 offering from Columbia River Knife and Tool. This is the Ken Onion Chance in Hell. This is considered a 12-inch machete, although it's not really flexible like, you know, a Tramontina or some of the cold steel Latin machetes. But this thing chops excellent. Excellent. Now, it looks like it's a full flat grind probably, but if I change the angle there a little bit, you can see it does have a little bit of a grind there. It's just doing a little bit more. And the handle on this is outstanding. It's comfortable. It offers superb grip. When you're talking about having a chopper, 2 things. It's got to have a blade that is capable of chopping, splitting the wood, splitting it apart, and throwing it away from the item that you're chopping. And it has to have a good, comfortable, grippy handle. You don't want something uncomfortable. You don't want something that's transferring a lot of shock from the blade to your hand like the SP50 does. You want something like this. And if it's got a little bit of an angle to it like that, so much the better. That's going to just give you more power on the downward swing. This one, what I like about this is this thing's got a lot of bite to it. It's got a lot of power, but it's lightweight. So you could put this thing on your hip. It's not going to feel like anything's really there. So something like this, and then maybe a good stout bushcraft knife in the 4 to 5 inch range, like maybe Tops Brothers of Bushcraft, or maybe an SE5 or something like that, and you should be able to handle most tasks. Heck, even something like this and, you know, a Becker BK16. Will this baton wood? I've batoned wood with it. I've found it doesn't baton as well as something like the Becker BK9 because although this is not really a full flat, it's still pretty flat. And when you've got all this real estate up here, this is causing drag as you're batoning through the wood. So Will it do it? Yes. Is it great at it? Depends on how big of the item it is that you're trying to baton. I generally want something that can baton 6 to 8 inch piece of wood with no problem, so I can split that into a lot of smaller pieces of wood. However, this is a very nice tool. Now, one other one that's close to the same range, a little bit bigger, a little bit heavier, also has a great handle. This is the Schrade Bolo, which, as I have pointed out in my own videos, technically speaking, this is not a bolo. This is more of a barong, but they just kind of goofed up when they made the name. Again, this has got the barong type handle in the back here. It's very grippy. You can choke up or you can slide back down for a little bit more power. Having the blade that angles down, again, like a kukri. I don't have any kukris here because I'm not really a kukri guy, but that's kind of the same idea. Having that blade curve down a little bit like that is just going to give you that much power on your stroke. This one is an excellent chopper. A lot of people don't like that this is 3CR13 MOV. That's not really a confidence-inspiring steel. A lot of people consider it a low-grade steel, but this is actually pretty thick, and I've beaten the crap out of this and haven't had any problems yet with it. So, just one more option for a large chopper. What else do we got here? One of my all-time favorite choppers. This is my Condor Bushcraft parang. You can kind of see it's got a lot of curve to it. Very comfortable handle. It is that injection molded polypropylene stuff. Very slick. Some people like slick. I don't like slick. Not when I'm slinging a big sharp blade around, because everything that I have is very sharp. But this one is just very agile, very high performance. It's just, it destroys wood. Destroys it. This thing is great. I have batoned with this. In my initial video that I did reviewing this out in the woods with Will from Machetes Outdoors, we were batoning wood with this. It was a little bit weird because of the weird shape, but it did it. It did it just fine. It's small enough to carry on your waist. It can chop down small trees. It can split wood for kindling. It can do a lot of things. Is this going to be as good as a full-size machete if you're trying to clear away brush or, just tree limbs in the path at, face level? It won't work as good as a long machete, but it will work. I have done it. I have used it. The downside to this particular model is it comes with a sheath that is absolute, utter garbage. I've brought this up to them, to Condor. I've shown them the Kydex, special Kydex that I had made for this from azwelke.com, and that is a superior Kydex sheath. So if you get something like this, this is a solid tool that is going to last you a long time. It's going to be a workhorse, but you're going to have to resheath it. It just chokes up too much at the opening of the sheath, and if you've got a nice sharp edge on your tool like I do, I sliced that sheath the first day. I hated that sheath. Plus, the belt loop on that sheath is just way too small for all but like a dress belt. It's like, who wears dress pants belts out in the woods? So sometimes choosing the right tool also means you're going to have to do a little extra, like get its own sheath for it. Now, another Condor, which I happen to be very fond of, actually is a little bit in the ridiculous range, but that one is the Condor Discord Machete. Now, this is a large, heavy, I think this is 3mm thick 1070 high carbon steel, full micarta handle, and I know people hate that I wrap micarta, but sometimes I do. The reason I wrap this one is it's just really big, really sharp. It's two-handed. I want as much grip on this as possible. What's nice about this tool, you got a little bit of a finger groove right here, so you can do light controlled chops by choking up. You can slide your hand back and get really forceful chops. You can even get both hands on it to do controlled two-handed chops. This is a very, very versatile tool. The power of this thing when it comes to chopping small trees and stuff like that. I've even, if you've got some pre-cut firewood that you can actually stand up, I mean, I've taken it and split the wood with this thing. It is a little bit much to be hanging off your belt. I actually rigged the sheath up so I can kind of just sling it across my chest and it kind of hangs right here. So that's kind of personal preference. Can you baton with this? I suppose you could. Again, you're dealing with a lot of real estate here. It's just not going to do the same job as a big saber grind like the Becker PK9. This is just like it's like the perfect splitting tool. However, again, a lot comes to personal preference, what you're comfortable with, what your terrain is, what you're trying to do with it. If you're trying to save weight and you don't want to carry like a big axe or something like that, you may prefer something like this because you could do a lot with it. Chop down trees, clear brush. Now this being a little bit of a heavier machete, clearing a path through the woods like this, it's going to wear your arm out after a while as opposed to like the Tramontina, but it could do it. Are you doing this for recreation? Are you trying to figure out the one tool for your emergency, shit hit the fan kit? All these things play into effect when you're choosing the right tool. Having the right tool for the right job means everything. The biggest thing that not everybody is in a position to do, if you have the ability, find someone that owns one or a knife store that stocks it and actually get it in your hand. That makes all the difference in the world. Myself, as a gear reviewer, sometimes I have to take that chance and put out money for something like the Boom Slang or the Ontario SP50, only to find out that I hate it. But I keep them around so I can use them to teach a lesson later. Now let's say, for instance, that you're not into the machete thing. You're not into the large chopper, large knife sort of thing. You're a more traditional bushcrafter type, or that's the way that you're leaning. You might just be better off with either a small hatchet or a small tomahawk. Now, this is the Fiskars X7. Nearly indestructible. Not indestructible, nearly. This can take a lot of abuse. It can be destroyed by someone who is intending to destroy it. However, do not be dissuaded by the fiberglass reinforced polymer handle. It is very, very, very strong. This is very lightweight, very good chopper, very good splitter for small pieces of wood. You can choke up, you can do some small carving tasks. It doesn't weigh a lot. It does come with this kind of weird sheath where it just kind of clicks in place and has a carry handle. My solution for that is I just put a piece of paracord or shot cord around it and make a sling so I can hang it here. The other thing is you can take that handle and some zip ties and attach it to the side of your pack through some molly straps or something like this. The nice thing about this, it's not that expensive. You can find these all day long on Amazon for around 25 bucks, and it's a tool that's going to last you a long, long time. However, maybe you're a little bit more traditional. Maybe you're a little bit more artistic. Something like a tomahawk is going to be very nice for you. Now, this in particular, this is a cold steel pipe hawk. The pipe hawk comes in a 22-inch handle. This particular tomahawk I cut down to 17 inches, which is about 2 inches less than what most people do, because I was playing around with this and I was trying to modify this to turn it more into a tool and not just a plain old tomahawk. I wanted to get more use out of this very, very good hammer pole that they have on the back of this. So I sized it to the largest kind of framing hammer that I could find at the department store or the home improvement store, and that's what I cut this thing down to. So this is my go-to tool when I want to drive some stakes into the ground to set up a tarp or a tent or anything like that. Because when I had this at the full length handle, it was just a little bit unwieldy trying to do that. But with this, it's perfect. Also, the Pipe Hawk has one of the best shapes I have found for chopping small stuff, because it goes straight here, but the angle of the chopping blade is going down like this. So when you're trying to do real control, maybe you're just chopping up a small tree for kindling or something like that, I usually just take this, you know, throw it on a stump or something, pull it over, chop, pull it over, chop, pull it over, chop. It's just easier to do that kind of work with this length handle. And not everybody likes the wrap stuff like I do, but the way that I was envisioning using this as a tool, that's why I triple wrap this. 2 layers of rescue tape, 1 layer of Wilson tennis racket grip. So it's really good in the hand, doesn't wear your hand out. This is just an excellent, excellent tool. Both of these, I mean, even the Fiskars X7, it's got something you could pound on. This isn't quite as ideal, it's not quite as big, it's not quite as flat, but if it's all you had, you could hammer with this. This though is perfect. So you can chop down trees, you can split kindling. If your wood's not too big, you can even split small logs, you know, like you would an axe. Don't expect to do that with too big of stuff. But if you've got good aim, I've taken logs maybe about this long and just chop down the middle of it in controlled strikes and split it that way. So really, I can't really tell you exactly what is the best chopper. I'm not going to tell you that because everybody is different. Everybody has different levels of physical ability. Everybody has different preferences to what feels good to them, what feels natural to them, what feels comfortable to them. Some people don't want to carry a large chopper or a large knife. Some people live in areas like Texas where you can't have anything like over 5 inches. So a BK9, as useful as it is out because, I don't know, it's too scary. I wasn't there when they wrote that dumb law. But these are just some of the things that I think go into effect when you're trying to choose a large cutting tool. You should always have your primary cutting tool, your main tool that you're going to do your most cutting tasks, be the most comfortable, versatile, best steel, the best knife that you can afford. And this would be what I would call your belt knife. Something in the 4 to 4.5 inch range, maybe down to 3. It depends. I like 4 inches for stuff like that. Something like the Becker BK16. The more Bushcraft Black is just freaking outstanding, and it's only about $35. Condor Bush Lore, another good one. But those things just do not have the ability to chop. And that's why you got to start looking at large knives, large machetes, and then crazy stuff like hybrid machete, large knife type things. Some of these things just kind of have their own category. Best thing to do, try them out if you have the ability. If not, read a lot of reviews. That's what I do. Look at something that you think you're interested in. Look at something that you think might work for your situation. And if you don't have the ability to get your hands on that item before you order it, then punch that sucker into Google, go into Amazon, read the user reviews, punch it into YouTube, watch videos, make a good educated decision before you go shelling out your money. Don't be like me and end up spending like $70 on this only to be thoroughly disappointed in what you get. Is this thing going to break? Probably never. I mean, this is good heat treated high carbon steel. I want to say this is 1090. No, this is that spring steel. I'm blanking right now, but this is good stuff. It just doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't chop worth a crap. It's not comfortable. It wants to fly out of your hand. It transmits shock up the blade to the handle. It's just not a comfortable thing. Chopping is a rough activity. You want to have a tool that does the most gives you the most output for the amount of force that you're putting out, and is not going to wear your arm out or wear your hand out. So there you go. There's some options for you. I'm not the kind of guy that's going to say this is the best chopper or anything like that, because everybody's different, and I just don't push my opinions on other people. However, that being said, if I only had one out of this pile, I would probably be this. Just because this may not have the chopping power of the Bushcraft Parang or even the Chance in Hell, but dang it, this thing's got chopping power even as a smaller out of this group knife, and it can do so many other things. Out of all these ones I've got right here, when it comes to batoning big pieces of wood, the Becker BK9 is the king, hands down. And I've used this for so many years, and I'm so familiar with K-bar Beckers, heat treat, and their steel, that BK9s and BK7s are just something that I tell everybody. I'm like, you will not be disappointed with it. You will not be disappointed with it. You will not be disappointed with it. So that's what it comes down to. But do your research. Get a chance, try other things out. I think I'm starting to ramble at this point, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I want to thank JJ for allowing me to come on his channel and spit some opinion at you. Thank you for sticking this out and putting up with me. If you want to check out my channel is Prepared Mind 101. You can also find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Prepared Mind 101, and all the other major social media sites like Twitter, Google+, and Instagram. So there you go. Happy shopping. Go out and buy some big pieces of sharpened steel, because either which way, they are fun to collect. They're fun toys. Oh, I'm sorry, they're not toys, they're tools. Okay. Thanks, guys. See you next time.